my grandfather, probably 3 times removed from Alabama's the one who had the forethought to think about what they were going to need in Oklahoma. I know from talking to my grandmother that Creeks didn't wear clothes that had pockets on them, so everything that they had, you know, they had to carry in a pouch or something, and that's how I'm assuming these peach seeds were brought to Oklahoma. My great-great-grandfather, his original allotment was over at Fountainhead Park on the 13th green, and these are where those trees came from originally. So he planted those and had an orchard over there, and eventually when the Corps brought the Lakeview Fall in, they eventually had to sell it to the government, and after that they moved back down over here just east of where I live, and so they've actually been moved 2 or 3 times since they were first brought here to Oklahoma. It's probably been 10 or 15 years ago before I realized how important these were. I started talking to people about them. Everybody heard about them. A lot of people even knew and tasted them, but they had never, seen any in recent times. And that's when I realized first, how important these things really were. So I started trying to take care of them, but as you can see, the brush and everything is pretty much taken over. I'm still working on it by myself. Some of my family come down and help me on occasion, but really it's something that I'm probably going to need some help with at some point, and I'll be asking people. A lot of people wrote and asked about my peaches from the newspaper article, and at some point I'd like to invite some of those people down to help me clear this out, so I can find them all. If you want to take a minute, we can look around. I think I can point some out they'll be hard to see. There's some stumps in here too that I'll cut, so watch your step there. But this is a really nice size one right here. That's almost too big for me to feel comfortable with transplanting, but see, there are 2 more here, 1 there. Actually, a little grove of them right through here. Some of them I've marked with tape so I won't brush hog them or anything, but right here I'd say this is 2, 4, 6, 8. This is about a dozen right here, and they're scattered out all through this brush and everything. And in the winter time is when I prefer to transplant them, so they're easier to see, for one thing, because all of this green is gone. But we're doing this today, just so that we can show people the process, and normally I wouldn't be transplanting them this late, but Dana Tiger, the artist, was one of the first people to come down. She's a longtime friend of our family, and she came down probably about 5 years ago and got a couple of trees, and I go up and visit them sometimes at her studio in Muscogee, and she sits out there and sings to them and takes real good care of them. Here's another good size one here. I had planned on pruning this back a little bit because it's got a lot of low-hanging limbs that they're not good to have a limb like this. All the limbs need to be going up like that. If this gets very many peaches on it, it'll break. So there's kind of an interesting thing that's happened here. My real grandfather died after coming back from World War I, and my mother was raised by my step-grandfather, who was Stahetke, and he raised us like his own children, so his own grandchildren. So I learned a lot from him, and he was instrumental in making sure that I knew the importance of this. But He's actually the one who took the most care of them, and he wasn't even Indian, you know. But he knew the significance of it. My grandmother was still alive at the time. She's the one who told the story the first time, and they were in actually a whole lot better shape when he was alive. And like I was saying earlier, I didn't realize how important these things really were until it was almost too late. So anyway, this is another one of the bigger trees that I've got. I'm sure we had one freeze when they were blooming, and it looks like it might have got some of the flowers while they were out, but some of them still look good, so I might get some peaches out of these. My grandfather that raised me was a farmer, and he knew a lot about raising vegetables and fruit and everything. And he introduced another other peach trees that actually had white flesh on them. And this, to me, it's kind of goes along with our story as Creeks. You know, those white peach trees were planted back on the south side of the house there. Of course, in the summertime, in the spring, the wind blows primarily from the south. So all of the Indian peach trees that were here, not all of them, but some of them were cross-pollinated with the white peach trees. So what we have is some mixed peaches, you know. We have some that are like white with a red pink interior, you know, and then we have some that are half and half. But I think I can still identify the actual Indian peaches, because we'll have to find one. But so you saw the ones that we saw earlier. I didn't recognize exactly how the color of their bark was, but I'll see if I can find one out here. Let's see, this right here, this could be more mixed because this bark is a little lighter. Let me see if I can find one that has it. It's got, what it has is, it'll be a darker, almost a purplish bark color. Okay, let's see. It's lost a little bit of its color right there, but well, this would be the closest color to what I'm talking about right there on this little limb here. Boy, get back, boy. When they first come up, hey, boy, come on, canal, boy. When they first come up, they're this color. This bark right here would have been that color right there. So I know that that's a true Indian peach there. Here's one that's a little bit smaller, and it's still got that darkness to it right there. That's pretty good. And this is a little bit darker also. So these are all from this tree here, and there's a few others in here. So I know these are all pretty much full bloods. The first thing I wanted to do was get peaches back out to the people that know about them, that have just who've just heard stories about them. The next thing I wanted to do was get some to the tribe on the tribal complex grounds over there. And as a result of the newspaper article, a gentleman asked me if I had thought about getting seeing about the possibility of getting any trees planted up near the Council Oak in Oklahoma and Tulsa. And I really like that idea the most. The council tree, of course, was here when we got here, but I think it would be really a good thing to have some of the trees that came down the Trail of Tears with us up there.
Yeah.
The first place that you know, the council met. So that's basically it. I'm trying to get it out to people, and everybody who's written, I could tell it was from the heart. They were actually telling me their own stories of what they remember of them. Basically the same as mine. You know, when I was growing up, when the peaches were ripe, we'd come down to my grandmother's house and gorge ourselves on them. You know, you could just pick them off the tree and pick them up off the ground. And they're not very big. They're about that big at the very most. And they're what's called a cling peach, in that the flesh sticks to the seed. So you really kind of have to gnaw on them to get everything off of them. But my grandmother was somebody who canned and preserved everything. She had like hundreds of cans of preserves, and she always preserved peaches for us for the summertime, I mean for the winter time. And I remember having them on a hot biscuit at her house, and some of the best biscuits I ever had, you know. But later on, as she got older and wasn't able to can or preserve, she would still like pick all those peaches and freeze them. And after she had passed away, even like several years after she had gone, I was able to like dig down to the bottom of their freezer and find some of those peaches and eat them. And it just meant the world to me. And I guess it was shortly after that that I began to realize how important they were. This is probably 15 years ago or so. And that's when I first had the idea of trying to get them out to other people, because, like I was saying, I didn't want to be the last one to have them. And I realized that they weren't really mine to begin with. They belong to everybody. And that's all I'm trying to do, is get them back into the hands of people that deserve them.